Good afternoon or good morning to those of you in the West Coast, or evening if you might be other places. But welcome to our Tuesday webinar series. This is sponsored by the International Association for Peace and Economic Development, one of the 8 associations under the Universal Peace Federation. And my name is Alan Jessen. I'm really excited for today to be your host and moderate this session. For the sake of our new guests who may be joining us, just a few words about the Universal Peace Federation. UPF was founded in 2005 by the late Reverend Sun Myung Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon. We are an international organization in a religious network of individuals and organizations, including representatives from religion, government, civil society, the private sector, and dedicated to achieving world peace on the foundations of our 3 main goals: the mutual prosperity, interdependence, and universally shared values. So I'd like to share just a few words about the mission of IAED. And while we can understand that the primary change that is needed to bring about a world of peace really is a change of heart, where we can recognize the dignity of each person and that we are all one human family under God, our Creator. Still, we believe that business and economic sector has a vital role to play. Business and economic thought leaders are absolutely critical in shaping an economy that can build the environment for peace through mutual prosperity and interdependence. And in our monthly programs, we seek to highlight leaders who can bring important ideas and who are making positive contributions through their work, which we're going to do today. And I would like to add just we are building a network of people like our speakers today. And if you know of anyone who would have something to add, we welcome you to let us know about them, and we'll reach out to them. So thank you for that. I'll just remind everybody that this is live streamed and recorded, so you can always find it later on our website. And if you have questions throughout today's program, just enter them into the chat function. And by the way, this month in March is International Women's Day. So I'm proud to say that we have 2 very exceptional women to be our speakers for you today. So let's get started. Today's program falls under our series, Young Entrepreneurs Making a Difference, and is entitled Financial Literacy and Entrepreneurship. You are never too young or too old. And when we say young, we mean very young, and you'll understand in a little bit. So I'd like to invite up our first speaker, Ms. Endura Govan, and bring her on the screen. So Endura has a unique set of skills in nonprofit management, education, business development, and entrepreneurship. She has a diversity of experiences, including creating white label conferences for major corporations and civil rights organizations, establishing in-school, after-school, summer camp programs, and creating a business kit in a box training to precede the Bull and Bear Conference during the Wall Street Project. In business, Endura's passion for social impact started with the co-creation of a company for her then 4-year-old son. And you heard that right, 4-year-old son, Alexander Govan, who wanted to create a company for children to learn how to generate money to improve their quality of life. At the young age of 10, Alexander died from cancer, leaving his vision for his mother to continue. Through bridging education, entrepreneurship, self-development, and philanthropy, she has added to Alexander's foundation and developed a learning style for youth that has allowed even the most difficult students to excel, completing the vision of her son. It's a wonderful thing, Endura. Incredible. She is most noted for the Meet the CEO program, where her underserved students meet presidents and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And later in healthcare, Endura has created a consulting company, Color of Health LLC, and a nonprofit, Color of Healthcare, to provide solutions to the senior populations with chronic diseases. So Endura, we're welcoming you to the floor is yours to share with us your story and your message for today. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's so great
Endura, we're having some trouble. Having some trouble with your audio.
Is it better?
It's breaking up.
It's a garbled audio.
It's breaking. Okay.
It looks like the internet connection might not be very good.
So Endura, the internet connection seems to be wow. We can't understand her.
Do you want to go to the next video?
I think
Okay.
If what do you suggest, EJ? Maybe she log out and come back in, and we'll have Audra share a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I mean, if she has a laptop, it's better actually.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Computer is better.
Yeah, computer's better. Sure. We see you on the screen, Endura. You want to try talking again?
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm going to log on another device.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about this. It's not coming through.
Okay. Maybe Alan, try to call her on the phone.
Try to do what?
Call her on the phone and make it on speakerphone, and then we'll just mute this one.
Okay. We'll try to do that. So Endura, I'm going to call you, and maybe you can speak through the speakerphone to our audience, okay? We'll try that. So I'm calling you now.
Better?
Can you hear? Speak to me here.
Yes, can you, is this better?
Yeah, it's a lot better. So
Okay, so I'm gonna turn off where I am.
No, you good.
is this working?
Hello, everyone.
We don't see your screen though. We don't see your screen picture like we did before.
Yeah, oh, that's
It's okay. I think it's his internet connection, really.
What are you saying?
Well, we don't see your picture, but why don't you go ahead and speak firmly into your phone, and I think we'll just run with it that way and do it, okay? So
Okay.
So
The other thing we could do, we could go with Audra first, and I'll try another device if you would like to do that.
Can you hear, if you can, EJ, can you hear through the speakerphone?
We can hear, but if she has another device, it's better for her to log on to another device, and then we can go with the other speaker for now.
Okay,
And then she'll
let's
come
do
back
that.
later.
We'll give you 5 or 7 minutes or something like that, and do it, okay?
So if you could literally give me 10 minutes, I'll be perfect.
10 minutes, okay, you got it. Well, Audra, share with us what you've been doing with entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Well, hi, everybody. Hello.
Yes.
Just to let you all know, God made me a redhead because you all needed a warning sign. So consider yourself warned. So I love the topic today. I really feel that we are in a very interesting time. I think that it's more difficult right now to be a youth than any other time. With the world changing the way it is, and there's so many new things happening in our education system, happening just in our communities, where basically, exceptionalism is something that I don't feel is as encouraged as it once was. There's so many things right now that's happening, and it kind of is everybody's the same. Nobody stand out. It's almost like, I don't know if you guys know the game Whack-A-Mole. You know, it almost feels like a Whack-A-Mole, you know? If you stand out, you're not supposed to. And I think that this topic that we're going to cover today is critical. And I think that in order to really embrace and stabilize an economy, it really comes from our communities. And inside of our communities is going to be our leaders. And inside of those leaders, can we reach them at the absolute youngest possible age? This topic is very near and dear to me. I actually went to 32 different foster homes by the time I was 10. And I think it's probably one of the best things that could have happened to me as a child, because I really developed that independence, that true meaning of freedom, knowing that I was young and I had this entrepreneurial spirit. And because I moved around so much, nobody ever put out my fire. It was always something that was so encouraged. I went from home to home. And the next thing I knew, I opened my first business when I was 15 years old. I was so young, I had to hire my first employee to drive me because I didn't even have a driver's license. And it was so funny. I remember I set some goals at a really young age. And I said I wanted to own a brand new car when I was 18. I wanted my first home when I was 21. And back then, I just feel that it was so much more encouraged, so much easier to get out there and stand out and basically create my own path. And it was funny. I remember the parents who adopted me when I was 10, she was a school teacher, and my father was in retail, in management. And I remember when I came home, I was doing super good, and it's 18 years old and I'm ready to buy a brand new vehicle. And I remember my mom saying, "You can't have a new car. I have never had a new car. There's no way that you can have a new car and I haven't had a new car." And I thought that that was the funniest thing. And my dad was like, "Yeah, but she's worked, she's earned, she's created job opportunities. She's got a huge staff already under her. She's about ready to sell her company and position it so she can buy her house when she was 21." And, you know, I think that for everybody here on this call, I think that there's so many of us that can offer those words of encouragement and really take the time to celebrate our youth. And let's go to the opposite side. Being that I have built and relaunched over 3,100 companies since 2006, I have seen young and I have seen an older community that has all of a sudden just ignited, had that fire of entrepreneurship, and realized that they are the voice for change. And I really think that entrepreneurship is about the opportunity to get in there and create something different. It might not be the only person out there or the only business doing that particular thing, but you know what? It's how you do it. And that's where entrepreneurship and marketing all come together, where it's a unique value proposition, where you can take something and it might not be the only company doing it, but how are you doing it? Are you evolving? Are you embracing all the new technologies, such as the world's kind of scary right now? We've got, you know, artificial intelligence. AI is everywhere. And in my industry, where I've had 311 employees in my reconstruction agency and we do marketing, it was a huge shift. It was like, wait. Where we used to have our people that were doing all the content and the graphics and all of these things, and now all this AI has come in. It is the ability to embrace and segment out, because even as technology comes, technology is not necessarily a replacement for people. A lot of people get nervous as, you know, an entrepreneur, and whether we're older or we're younger, and we say, wow, is technology coming in to replace humans? Well, at the end of the day, it won't. And it's up to basically our communities, both the older and the younger, to meet together in the middle. And I think that creating these opportunities and celebrating what we're going to see with Endura today, the ability and what she has created to nurture, to pull out, and to celebrate. I have two boys, and my two boys, I've got one who's Special Force, Green Beret, and I've got another one who's a chef, who's about ready to be a lawyer. And I had a conversation, and they said, you know, Mom, it's so difficult to be a man these days at my age. I was like, why? You've got the whole world at your fingertips. You can learn something by Googling it and know it instantly. They said, yeah, Mom, but it makes it really, really difficult. I was taught by you that when I meet a girl, I open the door. I treat her like a lady. I walk on a certain side of the street. And now things have changed. I want to celebrate independence, but I also want to be a gentleman. And there's that struggle is so real on both the older and the younger generation coming together. My advice to him was, I was like, you know what? Just tell him in honor of what your mom taught you, please just have some patience. You're just kind of honoring your mom and what she taught you, because she is a redhead and she's scary. And she'll find you. But anyway, you know, this is a very exciting topic. And reading the different things that Endura has done and seeing how her story is just so moving and so touching, and the challenges that she's had. And a lot of times it's so hard to keep something you've started, and sometimes when tragedies and when things don't go the way you thought, to keep on pushing forward and creating that change in memory of, and also just blossoming everything around you. So how's Endura doing?
Thank you for sharing that, Audra. Obviously, it's great. Is Endura with us here? I have a question for you, though, Audra, because one of
Absolutely.
the things that she talked about in her paper and early in the preface was how she's trying to ignite the discovery of young people so that they can see things, you know, differently, see things, opportunities in the world around them, simple things. So she's teaching that kind of skill. I guess you'd probably agree with that based on your experience, right? So your eyes have to be open, and even at a young age, to kind of think that way in terms of business and opportunity.
100%, 100%. And I really think that, again, in a world where it's not as encouraged as it once was to stand up or stand out, I think the challenge now that we really are facing is, how do we do that without necessarily depending on our educational system, or depending on maybe whatever it is that you believe in life, your higher power, from getting it from there. Now, with so many people isolated, so many people disconnected, how do we nurture and discover that hidden talent? Those are some of the challenges that we have.
Right. Discover and allow the kids to discover on their own without. I heard recently that there can be two kinds of instruction, or teaching, rather, the teaching of instruction, or the teaching of discovery. And a teacher is there to help stand beside the student to discover for themselves. So I know that's what Endura's been doing. I hope we get around
two totally different methodologies.
Yeah.
I mean, the approach, the words that you use, the body language, you know, to encourage discovery is one of the most beautiful gifts that there possibly is in the world, you know, and to really pull that out and then take that discovery and say, okay, I see that shining star. How do I point it and empower that to be the next generation of whatever it is that they want to focus on? And that is something that is very, very difficult. And, you know, to celebrate somebody who that has become an innate part of their personality, and in every single thing that they do, whew, we need more of that in the world.
And give them confidence.
Absolutely.
So Endura, are you there? I see you on the screen, but I don't know that you're speaking. Just call. So maybe I'll try calling. My tech guy says I'll try calling her. So we'll see, to our wonderful patient audience, if this will work out here for us today.
She says she's just listening in the chat.
She,
So while you're doing that, Alan, I'll just continue to talk a little bit because, you know, one of the things I'm looking is our participants. And I am seeing the diversity and all the people and our participants that are coming from all over the world. And that's really, really exciting. And I think that a lot of times we think that this world is this huge place, but at the core, and you look at the different people in the different countries being represented just on this call, and that's the magic of the International Association of Economic Development, is because it's really a worldwide organization that is embracing business owners, opportunities, you know, voices in the communities to come together and drive forward with a common goal. And that is just to make basically our neighborhood, our community, and by doing that, our countries and the world a better place. And the ability for us to make that personal impact by showing up and seeing and embracing maybe some of the new concepts that we hear on all these different webinars. And the topics are so diverse, and they are so many different things and so many homes that you can find for yourself through all the different topics and all the different discussions. And I know I've been here, I was actually in Korea and signed the big board when it was originally launched in Seoul, Korea. And that was just so much fun. And I just love seeing the impact that the organization has had worldwide. Just by looking at this call, I'm so excited. I have goosebumps.
So while we're waiting for Endura here, I just wanted to open this up for some discussion. So instead of just doing a regular format today, why don't we take things a little bit differently? So if anybody has any questions or thoughts or anything that they would like to ask to Audra, or some suggestions around this topic, I would really like to hear from you. So just if you could use the raise hand button down the bottom of the screen.
With
Or if you want to
that
type
being said,
chat.
Roger, some of my specialties are marketing as well as operations. So if anybody has any questions, just get them on out there. Would just love to answer anything you guys might have.
Give you a couple of thoughts.
Awesome.
How about Zagari Oliver? I know he always has something to say.
I love it.
At a spot like that. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I was really inspired by what you were saying. I think just to share in reference to Endura, work together, and one of the things that we initially worked on was the opportunity zone. And opportunity zones, people thought it was the government's intervention, but it wasn't. Just the government giving incentives to the big guys who are coming in and doing all these developments in these at-risk neighborhoods and just, you know, kind of gentrification process and saying, no, you have to deal with the stakeholders. So one of the things that we saw that, and then the qualifications was that they needed to create a QOF. That means there was money that the developers needed to put in a certain pot, and that money was used for the stakeholders. And one of the things that Endura and I thought, we start brainstorming how we can begin to teach those people, those stakeholders in those communities, at-risk communities, how to become more financially literate. And how would that change the whole community trajectory? Because that one individual, these little young individuals would become the catalyst for just so much change in their communities, because they would be stakeholders, they would be owners, their entrepreneurship would, be cultivated, if you will, in the right manner in the right area. So when you were talking, that struck me. I said, yeah, this is incredible, especially the topic that that we're discussing right now. So I want to thank you. And then one other question I did have was, did you ever get that car?
I did.
Okay.
I got a T-top Camaro back in the day. So yeah, I sure did. I got it and I actually parked it down the street for 2 weeks before my mom actually realized I did buy it because my dad had snuck me to the dealership and co-signed. I'd like to say something about the opportunity zone, if I may, because as an investor, I do a lot within the opportunity zone. And I will say that between the investments that I've made in and out of some of those zones, the most rewarding, the most impactful, where I've seen the most change from any investment is when we've taken these businesses and these concepts and we put them into these specific zones. Yes, the tax incentives are fantastic, but I think the reception of the community to have something so substantial and the way they embrace it and the way they were able, like all the different kinds of business, not just one kind of business, but a diverse kind of business, the common denominator was the community who embraced the change and spread the change and really wanted to make a difference. And I love the fact that you and Endura are going into those particular zones because this is where change happens, honestly.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's a question for you, but one of the things, you're right. We came up with the concept that it's a win-win-win. I think it's 4 wins or 3 or 4 wins. Of course, the investor wins by the government making that incentive. They win. The stakeholder wins. The community wins, and some other win. So everybody wins, in this process. So we build a better community and a better country. In that
Absolutely. 100%. Awesome. So there was a question here. Roger, you want to read that or you want me to read it?
Yes, I would like to know a little bit about that first company that you started at 15 years of age. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of company, what was your business plan, and how did you get into that?
Absolutely. So for those fellow people out there who might be a little OCD, hi, that's me. I like everything in its place. I like everything clean. I like everything organized. And at a very young age, because when you're going from home to home, as I kind of traveled between all the homes, I didn't have luggage. I had a plastic bag. That's kind of the way foster system works, right? You go from home to home in a plastic bag. Best day ever was when I actually had my very first piece of luggage, very, very rewarding kind of feeling. But with that kind of a life, you learn to hold on to the most minimal of things that are the most impactful. And as I started to go and visit all these different homes and see all the different clutter and just confusion and chaos and all the different things, I started to find that I love to clean and I love to declutter. So the very first company that I actually opened at 15 was a cleaning company in Newport Beach, California. And I was a straight A student, but I only came on Mondays to school and Fridays to school. Remember, my mom who adopted me was a school teacher. The school called me in and they actually asked me to leave school, even though I was a straight A student. And it was very devastating to my mom. My mom said, but why? She's just, she turns in all her homework. She gets perfect scores on her tests. And they said, because our system is not built to encourage or to understand or to even embrace this kind of mentality. And so my mom was so upset and she was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And she came to me and she's like, Audra, I don't know what to do. I mean, you've got employees that are depending on you. You're doing good in school. I'm in this really weird situation. So we met with the principal and the principal said, well, we're going to ask that she just test out. So I did. I took my GED and I got a perfect score. So they said I cheated. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I cannot win in this situation. So what ended up happening is my dad, he pulled me aside and he said, listen, they're going to have you take the test again. And they're going to have a whole bunch of adults standing over you while you're taking this test. And if you wouldn't, maybe do so good, if you could miss a problem or two, it's going to make everyone else feel better. And I thought to myself, wow, what kind of a world do we live in that people feel better when you're not standing out, when you're not making a difference, when you're not creating jobs, and if you test well, to step back a little bit. And that was a hard lesson. And I ended up taking that business and doing first homes, and I was in Newport Beach, California. Then I started doing boats and yachts, and I went into decor. And I ended up, by the time I sold the business at 18 years old, I had 73 employees at 18 years old.
Wow. A round of applause there, I think. That's great.
Thank you. All started from being OCD, so yay!
Oh, I have a question.
Sure.
The topic here too is financial literacy.
Yes.
So, from your experience working with lots of people,
Yep.
What maybe are some of the key missing pieces in a person's, understanding of money, or understanding of, how to manage money, or things like that, that might limit them from becoming an entrepreneur, or they need to know as a fundamentals?
Absolutely. I think that goes into some of the educational programs that we have in school, or lack of. Some of the fundamental topics that we really need to be teaching at a very young age in our systems. The fact that a lot of people really come out of high school, very few of them knew how to even write a check. I mean, even today, who writes checks these days, right? But the concept of checks and balances, to be able to budget, to be able to put a certain amount of money aside, and kind of keep that for a rainy day. One of the things I've noticed as a common denominator in many of the successful business owners that are out there is really comes down to discipline. And when it comes to financial literacy, understanding, a lot of people have the general concept of you need more money than less money. You need to make sure that the bills get paid, the lights get on. But how do you take it to the next level? How do you invest? Something that was really interesting on Endura's information that I was reading. This might be fun to do on chat. We're just we're going to throw it all out there today. So what do you guys think? There are two terms in investing, and there is basically two kinds of market. There is a bull market and there is a bear market. Does anybody know where those terms came from in investing?
No.
You got me.
No?
I don't know.
Okay, here we go. You guys are going to remember this forever. So basically, in a bull market, so the two animals, when they fight differently. A bull, they take their head down and they take their horns and they go up, and they throw basically whatever it is that's in front of them, and that is their fighting style. So in a bull market, it is an up market. Now, when a bear fights, they use their claw and they go down. They're constantly going after their prey, and they actually go down. And that is a bear market is a down market. A bull market is an up market. And there's a lot of people who had no idea, exactly what those markets are. Go ahead.
Thanks, Audra. I'm gonna call on Daryl Franklin in a minute, but
okay.
I wanted to show that this was an article that Endura sent us in the Wall Street Business, and the first part says, "Do you know the difference between a bull market and a bear market?"
Right.
No, just ask one of Endura Govan's international business kids.
Yep, that's why I brought it up on this call.
Yeah, exactly.
So many people, I would love to see by a show of hands, how many people had no idea that that's where those two terms came from.
Right.
Okay, look at that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Daryl Franklin. So first, do we have, I guess Endura's not here. Go ahead, Daryl. Why don't you speak up?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you so much, Adura. Yeah,
Audra, yes.
yeah. You know, excuse me, I just had this call. Yeah, one of the things in which I find very, very interesting, and that is it seems as though from what I'm hearing from you is that we have a structure within the education system that is grooming and preparing our students to comply with the system, as opposed to teaching students how to be able to create their own systems.
Yes.
And would you say that this is actually leading towards a growing dysfunctional ability for the education system to truly address the issue of actually helping create new entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question, Daryl. I love this question. I've actually had this question a couple of times in my career, and I'm going to say that let's go back to COVID. Let's talk about COVID, right? We had big businesses, and big businesses had trouble being agile, right? COVID came. How do we work with our employees? How do we grow our companies? Do we send them home? Do we keep them here? Versus look at the entrepreneurs who were still functioning within their communities. They were still providing opportunities for work, for food, for support, and for all of these things because they were agile. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs, we are wired differently. We think differently. We see things differently. And when we start to be conformed and we start to be discouraged with exceptionalism, it's really a scary topic. Who are our leaders going to be? What are our leaders going to look like? How do we diversify our economy and have the ability to be agile when no matter what happens in the world, are we going to be prepared? And if everybody, no, I hope I don't offend anybody with this remark, but everybody gets a trophy. About this, I really feel that I myself and many people I know, it was that push. It was seeing that person get the trophy, that acknowledgement, that certificate. And that's when it bubbles up inside of us. And we think to ourselves, I want to be that person. I want to be the one who's standing there. And I think it's very, very important to remember that in our personal communities, in our schools, in our religious temples, and wherever we celebrate whoever it is that is our greater power. And I think it's important that we remember that when we all are the same, it is very, very difficult to follow a voice that has no sound.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Daryl.
Great
point. And thank you for your obvious concern on the situation. I see it's heartfelt.
Oh, big time.
Absolutely.
I think there's also in schools today, there's not always good education around entrepreneurship in general and about different ways to actually make a living. It tends like career focuses tend to be on how do you get a job, right? Where you work for somebody. And I was actually in a school giving a talk to a group of 16-year-olds a while ago, and the focus was, how do you get your resume in shape so that you can get a good job? But I was saying, actually, in terms of making money in the world, there are many different ways that you can do it besides just getting a job, right? I would like to really see a little bit more education around this whole area. I know that we have Jim Edgley on here as well. Jim, do you want to say a little bit? You have some thoughts around educational ideas as well. Can I bring you up?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Roger. Hi.
And then we'll get your comments on this, Audra.
Hi, James.
I do have Endura. She might be able to speak on here.
Oh,
can I preempt you for a second, Jim?
certainly. Yes, we've been waiting for her. Yes.
And Endura, would you like to speak through my phone to the group here? We've heard a little bit, but we need to hear from you.
Yes. How is this coming through? Is it clear?
We can hear you, yes.
Oh, wonderful. I've been listening in. It's been an incredible call. And I think everyone on the call just went through maybe 20 plus business lessons. How do you pivot? How do you do teamwork when one team member isn't available? The next team member just jumps right in there. How do you get over frustration? So I think this was an example of how everything in life is a lesson. Even net being able to get on Zoom because it's so new and we've been doing business for centuries without something called Zoom. So I just love what I've just learned in the past half hour. I'm Endura, the Executive Director of International Business Kids. And I just want to say, Audra, your story is so amazing. Just of your life going through the foster care system and how God just allowed you to be adopted by an amazing family who didn't stifle your growth. And your perseverance is just awe-striking. And just what you've done in your life as a teenager. So International Business Kids was founded by, at the time, my 4-year-old son who came to me and said, Mommy, can you help me start a business? I thought he was joking because it was hard to get him to clean up his bedroom and put his Ninja Turtles back in the toy box. But he came from a family of entrepreneurs at the time. I invested in real estate and I would take him on appointments with me, kind of sort of from birth. And I think being around me as a young entrepreneur, he just got bit by the bug, coupled with God's given purpose for his life. I remember at the time calling organizations who taught entrepreneurship net on a young level, as low as 4 years old, but they taught adults. And I called for help, and most companies either hung up the phone or laughed so hard until I hung up the phone. And this was circa 1990, and I was told by several thought leaders and professionals, you cannot teach entrepreneurship on an elementary school level. Why don't you give us a call when your son is in 10th or 11th grade and then we can help him? But we all remember being 4.5 and we were counting our birthdays or 4, but I'll be 5 in a week. So I couldn't go back to a 4-year-old and ask him to wait 10 years to get started. So at the time, I did what I knew to do as an entrepreneur and made my lessons that I used very simplistic for Alexander. And that's how we got started. And he first, I bought him a button machine. I would literally buy business magazines because he was also learning how to read. So it's not, he could read a magazine. So we would flip through the pages together. And this button making magazine jumped out at him. He wanted that, so I bought it. He would make buttons, and now he's around 5 years old. And he said, I need something with a bigger profit potential. I'm only making $1 or $2, and that's way too much work for $2. And he came up with a concept of getting revenue for his company by teaching entrepreneurship to children. And he said, I changed my business model. I'm going to be a teacher instructor. I can make additional revenue and then I'll be happy. And so that's where we are now. So since 1990 up until 2016, we would influence anywhere to 5,000 to 10,000 children annually through a number of ways: in school programs, after school programs, summer camps. But what brought in more students was what I called a white label academy for conferences. So anyone who would have an adult entrepreneurship conference, we come in and we organize their entire youth entrepreneurship conference, and it's an amazing blend. I guess I start what's called crisis cause company. That's a term I made up. It seems like when I'm in a crisis, I find a cause out of it and create a company. So in 2016, I did put International Business Kids on hold for what I thought would be a few months. It actually became several years. And I helped my oldest brother, who was diagnosed with what's called early onset dementia due to being a diabetic. And out of that, just seeing the great need for senior health care done with dignity, because I was able to get a front row seat to how he was treated because of his zip code, because of his color, and because of his income. And so I started Color of Health LLC, which finds free healthcare services and modalities and other benefits that underserved seniors may not be aware they qualify for, and we allow them to live a better quality of life through enhanced services. But my heart is always with people in underserved communities who may not have the revenue they need to change their quality of life. And I have a nonprofit entitled Color of Health Care. So where there's a money gap, we're able to help seniors. It's still entrepreneurship, even when it's in a nonprofit setting. And just what I've heard on the phone so far, it's just amazing on how we can operate companies and help thousands of people. Children aging out of the foster care system is a emerging segment of where I'm placing some time. The age has been raised, so they're contemplating raising the age to 21 years old in foster care because so many people exiting foster care become homeless. And so that's a big part of what another company I'm partnered with wants to bring to market, helping the foster care children identify gifts and talents and create revenue. So as they age out, there is something that can carry them throughout adulthood. But we just have to start younger. And it's just such a pleasure to be here today. I look forward to forging partnerships in this new community. And I want to give a special thanks to Reverend Oliver, who made comments earlier for even introducing me to what created this opportunity. So yes, when it comes to money management principles, these are strategies that follow us our entire life. Sometimes it's wonderful, like we've heard from Audra. It was just so wonderful. Oftentimes, it's not. Oftentimes, there are very bad money management habits that we create, and they do start very young. I have a policy, as soon as children start asking how much is that dolly in the window, or now 2024, how much is that gaming system on the shelf, those are excellent segues into teaching children about money and how it works. There's been such a change due to technology. When we started in 1990, if I asked a student, where does money come from? They were able to say, oh, my parents were, my grandparents or my guardian. And now the younger children, I'm speaking maybe kindergarten through second grade, money comes from Apple Pay or Google Pay or Cash App or Zelle. And that disconnect I'm seeing just over the 3 decades that I've been working with children lets me know that no matter how much technology comes and we invent and we use, we still have to go to the basics of what is money, how do you make it, how do you make it grow, how do you invest it, and how do you use it in your life. So those are things that technology shouldn't be able to wash away. I'll wrap up there. It's just been such a pleasure to be on the call, even with the technical difficulties.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Endura. We have some clapping for you and appreciation for you. Audra, I did see you raise your hand. Would you like to ask Endura a question?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple questions. You brought up something that I find very interesting, and because you're so connected to the youth, how do you feel about the younger generations, really their understanding of money and where it comes from now that this new technology, Apple Pay, Zelle, all these different ways to actually transfer money back and forth? Do you feel that they're really understanding the fundamentals of where money comes from and how to use it and how to budget? Have you seen any shift?
I have not seen a shift. The shift I've seen, unfortunately, is not for the good.
Exactly.
So I'll use our lives as an example. And I may sound like a dinosaur when I say this, but we get money for cleaning our bedroom or doing the dishes. We were the dishwasher. So many of us did not have maids, or we helped a neighbor, my brothers, who kept money. They had to rake leaves, shovel snow, walk an elderly neighbor to the grocery store and help her carry her bags back, things like that. So now a child has created a group of people on their Cash App or Google Pay or Zelle. They know 20 ways to ask for money in an instant. And so I'll use my nieces and nephews. I'll get a request. Can you Cash App me $50? I'm in line. Can you do it like right now? Like, stop your life and worry about my spending habits. So no, it's gotten worse. But with every technology, there is the opportunity to use technology for good. So there has to be the educational component to Google Pay, Apple Pay, to Zelle, to Cash App. I know Cash App for adults is doing some amazing things. And my goal is to reach out to them for some youth financial literacy training. As far as the school system goes, there are about 28 states who have passed legislation to incorporate financial literacy as a standard in K through 12 teaching. April is coming up, so that's Financial Literacy Month. So that's when you hear a lot of buzz going on. But I didn't have the capability to text 20 aunts and cousins and friends in a group text and say, can each of you send me $10 because I want to get some clothes. So I'm seeing the ask a lot of times used improperly. I started 2024 letting all my nieces and nephews and my great nieces and nephews know there will be no more transactional requests at the last minute. If you don't want to start a business, you know, and most of them have, I'm just on the second generation, I'm on their children. And so all of my nieces and nephews, that first generation, they have gone through my program. That was mandatory. And it opened doors for college scholarships and job opportunities and things like that. So they definitely see the benefit. But this generation, a lot has to happen, even with adults, because even parents of a certain age, you're tired. So sometimes it's easier to send a cash app than to say, I'm going to make you do the things that I know will help shape you. And so we kind of throw money at the problem. So it takes everybody. It takes parents, advocates, the community, teachers, children, and family all working together to reshape the mindset.
Endura, you mentioned how you impacted, thousands of kids. We just have a few minutes here, but maybe you want to speak about if you had any curriculum or anything you developed to do that. And there was a question here about if you have any suggestions for beginning youth entrepreneurial training. So they kind of go together. Do you have any materials or any lesson plans or things that you could share, or how did you do it?
Yes, I started off because Alexander was so young, and nothing sort of existed. Now, junior achievement has been around for 100 years. I think they're celebrating over 100 years. I found that for that 4 to 7-year-old, that's kind of where I was with the initial group of children. I had to craft my own sort of easy to understand curriculum. And I work primarily with underserved kids. That's just where my heart is, for the population who is not even thought of sometimes when you're talking about money. And then creating words and phrases and a language that's adaptable and easy to understand. So yes, I do have curriculum. We are rebooting in a big way. I pivoted for 6 years to take care of my brother, and he transitioned. So I am rebooting with International Business Kids, sort of 3.0. But there are some basic materials I can forward to you. I'm in a conference, so I was hoping to have had them for you to email, but I will get some things to you. And you'll hear a lot about youth entrepreneurship in the next 45 days. So April being Financial Literacy Month, even going on Eventbrite, there is a website, it's the Jump Start Coalition. So they do a lot in April around the whole country, and they allow people who have events to post on their website for free. And so you will be able to find an event for youth right in your city. So I would say just look out for April and then join in, and then stay tuned as International Business Kids reboot using a lot of technology. And I'm looking forward to our work at home partnerships we have for children that I'll be announcing, where they will be able to use their cell phone to make money instead of just using it to send out money requests.
Very good. Very good. Okay, Audra, do you have one last comment there? And I think we'll wrap it up. But also, Endura, when you get that, when you kind of reboot it and have the materials ready, just let Roger or I know, and we'll try to make that available to anyone who requests it. Is that okay? Sound good,
Sure,
Roger?
yeah.
Okay.
So that was an awesome. Thank you, Endura, so much for your response to that. I had a very unique opportunity here in Utah, and I went to 2 different communities with definitely a financial divide between the 2 communities. And it was very interesting, the feeling towards money from the community that was not quite as financially affluent, that was still actually having interactions of instant gratification for work well done. Meaning, hey, you did a chore, here is your allowance. You, all of a sudden, you said, hey, I want to go buy this toy. And they said, hey, go mow a lawn. You mow a lawn, you get that money, and you then take that money and you start within the communities and the commerce and like putting it out there. Versus the other side of the youth definitely was much more app oriented, not so much that go out there, that craving, that desire that I'm going to go do a lemonade stand, I'm going to go mow a lawn, I'm going to do those things. I felt like that particular community was much more like what you said. Asking for money was extremely easy in that community, versus the other community was more, I'm going to go work, grab that money, and I'm going to shift that money and place it somewhere else in the economy. And it's just such an interesting dichotomy of where our future is going when it comes to entrepreneurship and financial literacy, when we don't touch it and we don't pass it from belly to belly, toe to toe, like we once did.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Endura. Do you have any last word you'd like to share?
Well, wherever you are, whoever is in your life, there's such a great opportunity for us to impart wisdom. Like I said, we may sound like dinosaurs to the children, but that's okay. As I often tell my students, you're going to love me when you're 40. When you get a little life to your life and realize I wasn't a mean old lady, but I was really trying to help. So I would just encourage everyone listening to just start with what you know. We all have learned life lessons that we can impart with you and young adults.
All right. And I loved your summation of our struggles here on this webinar today, to see it as an example of entrepreneurship jumping in there. Roger jumped in and we kind of teamworked this thing together. So that was a good insight there, Endura. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're signing off here, and we appreciate being on with us and and all that we're doing here with the IAED. Until next month, have a good day. Have a good day.
Thank you, Endura.
Yes.
Thank you, Audra.
Thanks,
Actually, I
Thanks,
might do it.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye,
Yeah.
everyone. Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Very
Thank
good
you.
content.
Wonderful program.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Turned out to be a great show. Thank you.